now. So we have our 2v2 cemented, and we've also got our jungler for Karsa. Olaf tends to pop up when we get a couple of jungle bans, and it's something that Karsa's no stranger to either.
And I'm really glad, and I really want to point out this trend. Now, it does help that these champions are also just kind of high prio. You said that junglers are seeing a lot of attention, a lot of bans. The Udyrs, the Heckrams will often be banned themselves. Udyr was the priority pick here, and then often Olaf is then kind of cropping up. But Rell and Olaf together are really good at checking blind spaces on the map. So if we're in kind of a dragon neutral setup meta where it seems like everyone's just kind of stacking dragons, getting the Elder, walking into Baron, things that Rell and Olaf do well because of Ragnarok, because of that innate tankiness, is that if they ever lose vision control over an area, they can walk into blind areas super safe. We see Suning use this combination a lot, and now hopefully we'll get to see Top use it, and we'll point it out when it happens. But just, you know, think, it's no longer just about securing your waves and getting prio and having that vision setup. It's kind of like a quick fix band-aid if you ever do lose control of an area, and it's something that's really cool about how the LPL uses these champions specifically.
And against a team like EDG that have that dragon priority, it could come in handy in the first couple of dragons as well if top esports lose any of that bot prio. But just taking a quick look at the bans here, TES, the Nocturne ban, the Gnar bans, these are solo lane bans, considering that we already have our junglers there, and Nocturne has been propping up a lot in the LPL, especially in that top lane with Stride Breakers. So we get two of those top lanes that have been safer, and picks that Flandre has tended to, especially with the Gnar.
And there is going to have to be a blind pick here, probably for Knight, since I assume that they'll leave the counter pick for 369 after what Flandre is going to lock in. And there we go. It was the blind pick Twisted Fate, one of the few bans that has slipped through. And now suddenly you have so much global and skirmish presence as soon as Knight is level 6, especially in that river. And Olaf Twisted Fate with that hard CC, even in the lane phase before level 6 is there, is actually really terrifying. So Scout needs to be on his toes and really aware that he's going to be dealing with gold card, potentially into Ragnarok.
We'll see if he picks a blind, safe matchup, right? Not blind, rather, but just a safe matchup in general.
Sorry, Undertow.
That's the one. But you're right, the damage potential's there and is a big threat for Scout. This is something that we talked about, you and I, in rehearsal, seeing potential of something like the Ryze to stop any of the priority on someone like 369, who now has the counter pick for the top lane to run into a volatile matchup with the Jayce.
Yeah, I suspected that TES would try to make sure that 369 always had the scaling matchup across from Flandre, so that way they could play a 1-4, and when they're doing dragon setup, have an advantage of playing around a side lane and skirmish, and that one of the ways that EDG would be able to contest this would be to put Scout on something like a Ryze that have similar mobility. But you can also see how that fares well into a Twisted Fate. You're bringing your own pieces of CC, you also have your Realm Warp to try to follow up on the Destiny. You can be just as dangerous trying to threaten that Twisted Fate in the lane phase itself, whereas there's the Irelia lock-in for 369. After what Udyr did with the champion yesterday, he's probably feeling pretty juiced himself into this matchup, but Flandre is definitely no slouch on the Jayce. Popped off pretty massively when EDG faced RNG.
He did. I mean, Flandre's Jayce something to be feared, but 369 in the laning phase, a really big key we talked about as well. But we
on Scout, and will TES be able to extend the lane phase on a very hard scaling composition and start skirmishing and using their brute force around this map?
You can see where the focus is here, ladies and gentlemen, as we supposedly hear the Gyos coming through for our next top 4 matchup. Top Esports versus EDG. It's EDG, the returning champions, versus the defending champions in Top Esports, last to pick up the summer split. As you see, the crowd is out in force, and both these teams have a huge amount of support. I'm sure the EDG fans happy to get back out onto a qualified matchup where EDG are in the position of power. Kind of exciting to see these two teams go to head-to-head where we talked about the stylistic differences, and Frost, you so well highlighted the matchup we're looking at here, and for Game 1, with the globals mentioned about there, and you wanted to see Meiko get towards mid to help out Scout, create the numbers advantage with Jiejie, and do what EDG have been doing in the past couple of games and for the spring split so far.
It is going to be a little bit difficult though, so I very quickly want to kind of start on the jungle pathing themselves, as our beautiful observers are showcasing that Karsa is starting Raptor, so looking for a really fast clear by not starting a buff. Obviously by starting the smaller camps like the Raptor camp, you're getting that timer on cooldown immediately. He's going for a full clear, so Raptor's red, probably then into Krugs, and then either a reset, maybe even a gank on top, and then looking bot lane. What that allowed him to do is this right here, whereas his bot lane got to start in lane, they get control of the minion wave, they have the ward already in that brush, and control of that brush means control of the minion wave, and already putting Meiko and Viper on the back foot, chunking them out and just letting TES's bot lane get off to the best start that they could.
Viper paying the respect, but there's another explosive charge. Viper will go to half health to wait for Meiko's little rejuvenation, and there's really good trading. Level 2 hit now as well, so Viper and Meiko that inch away from the turret just to play it safe.
Yeah, just stacking and crashing the wave as quickly as possible. Checking back in on Karsa's pathing. He didn't look for the reset after the full clear on top side. He's now actually just moving back into his bot side jungle. I believe he was pinged out on Scout's trinket ward on Raptor camp. So EDG should have good vision that Karsa is moving towards the bottom side of the map, meaning that Viper and Meiko will probably play this one pretty close to their chest and continue to take chip damage and pot disadvantages to JackeyLove and Zhuo down there.
Well, you can see the response from Flandre, right? While they're playing respectively bottom lane jungle pathing, I mean, Flandre's been pretty good as, yeah, we're going for it again. Meiko a bit of a head bop there, but Zhuo's going to re-engage. Meiko ignited down. Against the turret, he'll have to walk as one more auto would have done it. JackeyLove gets the splash damage, and Meiko won't burn any summoners, but one from Zhuo.
Actually, just, it feels like a bit of a big mistake there. Yeah, you get the ignite off of, but that could have gone really wrong as here comes the top lane dive into double teleport.
That's a teleport, Froskurinn, and 369's like, where did everyone come from? First blood over to Scout while the flush away secures. Jiejie not going to be taking any of the aggro as Scout juggles that nicely, and EDG on the board first.
But meanwhile, it looks like Karsa might be trying to contest this one. Although with Knight using his TP back into the lane, 369 using his TP back into the lane, they don't have the Irelia to also look for this dive. We'll see if they force it. Diving Alistar, very dangerous.
Karsa is level 4. Meiko disengages
That is why.
Zhuo. He misses the Shattering Strike, and Karsa dodges away. That's knife from Viper. He cleanses it, and Karsa taking the turret aggro. A 1-for-1 while Meiko watches on in fury, while 369 forces the flash from Jiejie on the other side of the rift.
And the action's still going, like you said, a fight on the Raptor camp. So what, a dive into top lane, into a dive onto bot lane, into a fight on the Raptor camp. It is action all across the board. Still only 3 kills going down. And let's just quickly take stock as I'm checking in on summoner spells, okay? Viper screwed, no flash, no cleanse. JackeyLove doesn't have flash either, but has W. So I'm just doing some accounting.
That's good.
And then Udyr, no flash. Okay, let's start with the top lane dive.
Please.
Normally going for a dive like that can be relatively dangerous. You know that it's going to come because obviously the top laner is going to build a slow push into a big crash. And when you have double teleport, it's scary because if Knight TPs up there on time and arrives with a gold card and you're taking tower aggro, it's going to be bad news bears. Now the good news is that Knight's TP was slow. I don't know if Scout actually delayed it. I'm going to guess not. I think he was just a little bit behind. And also when he did TP up there, he didn't immediately have the gold card available to him, had to cycle all the way through, and the turret aggro was really well juggled by EDG. Now on the other side, Karsa then tries to force the dive bot lane. They do trade 1-for-1, and the wave is on the tower, so it's technically EDG losing more if they get the kill and the wave feeding under, but diving in Alistar, you saw how dangerous that can be and how well Meiko was able to trade that 1-for-1.
You have to remember that at the end of the day, JackeyLove was able to stay in the wave, but you're right, it was a dangerous play where Meiko now has double buffs as an Alistar with a kill under his name as well. And Karsa's
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, unless he wants to get an extra quick combo for a 2-second less cooldown. Karsa was spotted out, but he's walking in anyway.
Karsa is just trying to brute force onto this dragon right now. Knowing how strong his bot lane is, as well as the fact that he has Prio technically in the mid lane, as well as Destiny available to him. So you can see Knight actually cheating down river, as it looks like we're going to have a full another skirmish. Flandre does have TP, so there could be a numbers advantage here for EDG if they decide to pull that Jayce, whereas 369 doesn't have teleport. So I actually think that top esports need to pump the brakes a little bit and kind of reevaluate the situation.
Maybe trying to find Jiejie without his flash. Half the cooldown left remaining while Karsa still has his. Starting Dragon on the ward as well. Jiejie moves into the lane while JackeyLove going forward. Gonna time the rocket jump or at least get an auto before he does so. Top Esports still playing aggressively knowing that Karsa's there, but he's already pulled off the Dragon. He's going for another prize.
Yeah, and it does mean that maybe Scout, if he wants to peek around this corner, could get caught out. But pretty cute to waste so much of Jiejie's time and allow Karsa to kind of move up top and pick up the Raptor camp. And now Karsa trying to set a trap, waiting for this Udyr to walk into him. It kind of feels like a bit of mind game. Scout goes into topside river, checks out Crab, picks up some juicy honey fruit, and Karsa's literally just hunting this bear.
Jiejie has Smite and he's level 6. First Undertow connects, that's great. Karsa going for the second of Smite to heal up, but Knight's here as well. Destiny used nicely, but you need to finish the kill, which the Undertow will only just do. Red buff kill for top esports, using this global mid proactively. And Knight's not done for now. Draw with the crash down, disengage you mentioned in champs like Frosk. Meiko gets it off, but top esports still waiting patiently.
Yeah, but now no W, just the pulverize available for Meiko. Where will he use it?
This time, the second time around for the dive, Meiko goes back in. Still taking up the aggro is JackeyLove. He's willing to dive for it, but Knight taking an extra shot. As Scout finally joins in the party, a double kill already for the Twisted Fate, while Scout is too late, and Karsa now has to burn that flash. As Ward over will spot him out.
Oh, flash on the Q.
That's a slow down. Scout wants the follow-up damage. Dwarf there with the attracted repel. Can he get the stun down? No. Ferromancy crashed down. May have even just given a second kill over to Scout. He has a flash, but will he make it in time? No, you've just given Scout 3 kills of your top esports while the Vanguard's edge up to the top lane. Flandre in a bit of trouble, but dodges the flawless duet. Resets here for 369. The hammer away means he stays alive and action across the rift as gold's still even, but Scout now incredibly fed.
Really well mechanically played by Scout right there, making sure that he got the flash on the Olaf Q so he'd have the movement speed to catch back up. And then as soon as he killed the Olaf, he had that red buff. You mentioned it, Rell did have flash, was trying to get over to that wall to get away from the gap of the Ryze, but good job on Scout, holding the cooldowns, making sure that he got the root, and then bursting people down for now a 3-0 Ryze. First back on the lucidity builds, and now has the mana pages, so he should be unmovable in this lane. But taking another look at this one, we talked about it. Meiko didn't have the headbutt, had to use it after the pulverize. Did get a good double pulve on top. And again, top getting punished for these pretty hard force dives on bottom.
They really are, and like the chase down here from Scout, I mean, good flash from the Undertow. But Zhuo trying to save his jungler's life doesn't work out in the end. And as we look at live, bit of shenanigans going on. Karsa will manage to get the Riptile while Jiejie goes in for the steal with the level advantage, but it does not compute. Knight gets the next kill, and suddenly both our mid laners are super fed. While the next gold card in fruition, Flandre flashing away, but it's a new target in Scout. The Undertow a mile too short. The Scout ready to hit from over the wall. The AoE not there, but Flandre wants to follow through. Top esports get out with the kill, and we just can't get time to talk for us. There's always action here with 10 kills already at 9 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing is that top esports had tempo advantage because they were first back out onto the map, which allowed them to get to the Herald first with numbers advantage. So that was actually just poor play from EDG. We talked about, top esports kind of hard forcing bot lane, as now Meiko's doing it.
Well, flash away, Killer Instinct immediately. Great buster shot from JackeyLove, but he's stunned up by the trample, and Meiko wants to keep him there. Scout has moved down as well, and JackeyLove's going to donate another kill over. Jiejie here to watch the show, and the fiesta continues with Viper adding one to the mix.
And Viper playing with his food a little bit, held his flash the entire time, didn't feel pressure to overextend and try to gap close onto JackeyLove to pick up the kill himself, knowing that Scout was in the wings. And Hysterics, we're not even getting a chance. It's literally been like fight into fight into fight into replay into fight. I had forgotten how much of an endurance test this region is.
Yeah, the funny thing is as well that for top esports, it was exactly like this games 3 and 4 against Suning. Sure, a little bit more one-sided, but it feels like when we watch a top esports series these days, they're always trying to push that tempo. And I'm glad that EDG are matching, right? This is what we mentioned as 369 pushes in the top wave, that it's going to be about that bottom lane. All parties sending all party members straight down there, and because of it, mid laners are fed. AD carries starting to get some of that action now as well, and junglers with a high kill participation rate already to start off game 1.
It feels like Invictus Gaming, especially in 2018, kind of really specialized in these compositions that kind of always had uptime. They weren't, big wombo combo comps that were about a lot of layering. They were constantly compositions that were able to quickly go through cooldowns and would always have pressure. And it feels like top esports will often play very similar compositions that have multiple damage threats that aren't super reliant on big ultimates to be able to fight. Whereas EDG is a bit more old school, so not so much in this composition specifically, but you can see that tempo that top esports are constantly moving the chains. They're constantly fighting on any sort of strength point that they have. And speaking of fighting, they're also setting up a dive on Flandre. Destiny's available, Karsa is already underneath him, and poor Flandre's like, please God, let me out.
But he's not going to get away. The undertow's there, and look at the damage already. Ragnarok burn. Flandre doesn't have his flash, and I told you, he's dying here. As Karsa picks up kill number 2, while EDG the response on bottom lane, but they've just turned the engage onto Viper. You think this is the weak side? Think again. Viper flashes away. JackeyLove doesn't get hit there with the W, but in comes Scout to save the play. Zhuo going to get knocked up next, or at least hit hard by Scout, who is level 10 with an Everfrost, and Zhuo's going to feel the pain. Another double for Scout. And top esports are like, fine, let's keep pushing top.
Yeah, top esports, though, going to be the big winners throughout this one. It's a slight miscalculation on JackeyLove, not able to get the assassination on Viper with the ultimate pushback, probably expecting that the E-charge would have taken him down, and Viper just living with a sliver of health was a big move for EDG, but like you said, the fact that top esports got to push all the way through means that across the board, you can see it, they've now taken that gold lead back, so winning the skirmish on top side, yeah, EDG trade them bot side, but all of those plates into the back of 369, as well as the Herald charge, top esports are feeling really good with this map state.
Side lane Irelia are going to demand a lot of attention here, and I feel like Scout's going to have to be the person, or at least the assassin, to deal with it. I know he's a mage, but 6-0, he's going to feel like one at the very least in game number 1. And he's a real problem. I mean, on the other side, I really like your point about top esports finding the gold lead there and at least getting 369 in a really good position now with Blade of the Ruined King. But I'm very concerned about Scout, because when he finds a lead, he holds on to it here in the LPL, and he cleaned up the back of his play.
So taking another look at this one, again, it's right there. Just slight miscalculation from JackeyLove on the Tristana. Didn't quite have the damage. You know, maybe that's a very different look if he's able to also kill or get the kill on the Kaisa there. That's one of those plays where if you're the Tristana, you're like, God damn it, why?
Yeah.
Why me?
It's like so close, but so far, and you know, Viper gets away with it, but JackeyLove 0-3-3. Now, a lot of people expect when they watch JackeyLove, it's either going to be hit or miss. He has been bullied a lot by EDG this game, to be fair, but he is taking the brunt of the pressure from EDG in this game number 1, while top esports solo lanes are in very good positions. And Frost, got to ask you what's next, because we've got a second dragon coming up. We started with the mountain here that EDG picked up. With a small gold lead and top esports getting those first items, it feels like there's a point of power coming through onto the Rift.
Yeah, and there's also the point of power in the map control that having something like a Destiny, as well as those 2 towers down up into the top side, will really impact the Dragon setup, as well as the next Herald spawn. So top esports simply have more options about how they want to play out this map state, because they can, you know, hard force that top wave all the way into Crash. Someone's going to have to go and pick it up. If they time it with the Dragon spawning, which they are doing, 51 seconds until the Infernal, they can either look for a pick, which is what I think Karsa and Knight were experimenting with there, as I think either that or they were fighting over a Gromp, and then make their reset and walk towards the Dragon. Flandre, and usually in Dragon setup, so not just EDG and Flandre, but just in general, usually your top laner kind of pushes like a banana that top lane all the way in, and then starts cutting towards mid lane to get there in time for the Dragon fight, so you don't have to expend your teleport, especially not as a Jayce. You want to be set up on the objective first, so you can start laying down a lot of that poke damage, since the angles and the flanks and the hard engage aren't really what that champion is about. So you already see Flandre grouped up with his team, as EDG are just trying to move in as a 5-man unit and trying to use their poke advantage, use tempo advantage, and kind of take these objectives out from underneath top esports, who actually weren't really upset. It feels like they were trying to set up the map for the Dragon, and then EDG were like, no, we're just going to take the Herald, use the Herald into the mid lane to try to force you out of the river, and try to double down on getting both these objectives with Herald pressure.
As they look for a pick onto Meiko, that's the Unbreakable Will drawn out for the team fight. But remember, the Herald was just picked up, and that's a mid lane turret waiting for EDG to take it. Top esports may start this Dragon, but EDG waiting in the brush, lying, or at least lying in wait for top esports to walk into that.
Yeah, and top esports aren't gonna fall for this. Like, it's fine. We'll take the Infernal Drake for this Herald here. You know, a long lane isn't super punishing for us. We have Gold Card on Twisted Fate, but it's probably going to be JackeyLove on the Tristana. That's going to be the Hoover in that middle lane, who has so much safety with the flash as well as the rocket jump. So having an extended lane mid isn't the worst case scenario for top esports' composition. It's now going to be about these side lanes and lane assignments. You know, where is the Irelia going? Where is the Ryze going? Are they ever going to match up? And how the side pressure is going to be used to find picks and kind of hit and run skirmishes on this map.
because it does feel like Nuguri can, or rather 369, used to seeing the Irelia there as Jiejie.
That was a compliment.
Just facing off. Yeah, I mean, after watching yesterday, seeing Irelia and you attach his name to it, but with these elongated side lanes, it does feel like either of these teams can use those globals, you know, draw them in, push quite extensively, knowing that their mid laners have a counter option.
Sorry, I was watching what was developing on the map. I really like a potential dive here, and I think Karsa's going to double down on it because Flandre's showing the wave. This is a great play from top.
That's a Vanguard's Edge with a flash responded by Flandre, but the TP defensively from Scout. He's coming in red hot, the 6-0 Ryze, who now has Zhonya's, and Knight knows it. Flashes away from Respect, and on the flank, Meiko's there, but not going to commit. On top Esports, the dive stops there, thanks to the TP from Scout.
Oh, but that was just so well played. So you saw on the map Rell and Olaf kind of figuring out, kind of bouncing between mid and bot, where were they going to go? And as soon as Flandre showed on the wave, top Esports were like, that's the target. We're either going to kill this Jayce or take this tower, or we're going to get the TP off of Ryze. They now have the TP off of Ryze, which means playing around the top side of the map becomes that much easier for the Destiny double teleport top Esports to essentially run the same play again, and again, split up EDG across this map, keep them from grouping up as 5v5, and find these picks with all of their different pieces of CC or just 1v1 skirmish potential.
I like that. Bit of a cooldown for Scout to play with then, as EDG grouping up as a 4-man gank squad. Draw doesn't go in, but Knight might be called out. Good Everfrost, but still knocked up by Meiko. Golden here will go, but it's way too late. Draw can't save him, and that 600 gold shutdown Froskurinn goes to Viper.
That was the anything you can do, I could do better, EDG. Yeah. They're just like, you try to collapse on our Jayce, well guess what, we'll 4-man realm warp onto your Twisted Fate and then grab the wave and try to push through. So EDG pulling the Uno reverse on top Esports and play the same play on the top side of the map.
Feels good when you're someone like Scout. That realm warp was beautiful, darting between vision, as they're going to get a turret out of it as well, and just like that, gold bounces back. 1,500 in the side of EDG at 18 minutes, and this game is still neck and neck. Exactly what we expected for these teams being close.
Yeah, but we do need to keep our eyes on this Jayce versus Irelia matchup. You can see how careful Flandre is being. He doesn't have his flash, so he needs to be that much more conscious that if Irelia does get on top of him, he's probably going to die. There's also a level discrepancy, as well as some of the early itemization coming in. But outside of that, top Esports made a slight mistake in kind of their setup. You know, Knight not really respecting the realm warp to get picked out there, when what top Esports were trying to do is, again, set up the same play. So if you look at map state, Twisted Fate's going to get landed on right here, but 369 is walking down towards that bot wave. JackeyLove was in the mid lane starting to push out mid. They were basically all just waiting for their laners to start pushing the waves forward and then apply the pressure to EDG, but EDG found that one window where 369 didn't have pressure on bot lane right now, JackeyLove didn't have the wave push forward mid, and Knight just made a miscalculation about how much kill pressure and snap potential EDG's composition had. So good play from EDG to kind of get their foot back in this, but this feels like it's going to be, you know, probably Scout versus 369 and Knight.
Yeah, it'll be blow for blow at least as well for the rest of this game, but that solo laner in Scout, you know, 2.5 items strong. I believe he has a needlessly large rod to add on top of the Zhonya's Hourglass that was picked up last time. He's huge. And seeing Scout like this is fantastic. It's what the EDG fans want to see, knowing that the second longest standing player, alongside Meiko, of course, is doing so well and has been one of the best mid laners in the split. So that item is coming across soon, ladies and gentlemen, with the most likely Seraph's Embrace after the TES fully stacked up. He's level 13, and Scout's the one to watch in these next fights, as Karsa's just clearing away vision. But Froskurinn, I think we got to get prepared for the next dragon coming up in 15 seconds.
Not just the next dragon, but potentially the next Baron. This next team fight will have so many implications on the state of the game and probably who will win it. It might not end the game, but it will certainly be kind of the first nail in the coffin, because if you get 5v5 wiped here, we all know what this is. This is 21 minutes. It's immediately into another Baron. It is interesting that I feel like top Esports have actually fumbled a little bit on kind of some of their mid-game plays. They're a little bit not very organized. They were kind of setting up towards the Baron. Knight was sitting in a bush, maybe looking for someone to face check into him with some gold card, but some really late recalls or mismatched timers mean that they didn't have any pressure on the map, and EDG actually just got to walk up to another free dragon. It's not the end of the world, obviously, for top esports, because they have plenty of scaling on their composition, but just something to keep our eye on as EDG continuously are finding these little windows on how top esports are a little bit late to slow up at this stage in the game, and making sure that they're always getting something for it.
I think it's also important to note that when you're stacking Cloud Souls as well, that ultimate ability haste on a composition that is utilizing the Ryze Realm Warp is also going to be something we've got to keep track of. That extra ability haste, the map movements become that much quicker. And EDG now with 2 to their name. But note on the other side of the map, you can see top esports just coming out, trying to clear some of the vision around Baron, because EDG took that time to put a control ward in the pit. They're setting up River Vision. They've even got a control ward ready for a TP flank as a potential up in that top lane brush for Flandre, or more importantly, probably Scout to hit an angle.
Yeah, and checking in on itemization, we are starting to hit the 2 to 3 item mark, probably 2.5 probably for most people. I know that everyone's heard it and they're tired of hearing it about how OP, what is it, Everfrost or whatever that BS item is. But on Ryze, it is just pain. It is Spain without the S. It is so awful to experience.
There it is.
And speaking of experiencing, yeah, it's just about that. It's a free low cooldown CC into repeated CC into massive burst, and we talked about in Champions like how much safety Rell and Olaf have to face check into kind of blind areas. Not when your Ryze is 6-0.
And now you're in a 5 versus 4, right? The Everfrost utilized so well, as you mentioned. It's 369 for the angle. Knights here. He used Destiny to get behind with the gold card, but this Baron's going down so quick as Meiko goes over the wall, but it's flushed in. It's stolen away. Karsa does it again in yet another game 1. 369 tries to clean it up, but the Baron's there. Run for your lives as the Realm Warp to clean up Knight. He'll go golden, hoping to take Flandre with him, but no can do'sville as top esports lose 3 for the cheeky steal.
Now, before I congratulate EDG, because ultimately that was an overall win for them, obviously they made it out with most members, they killed a lot of the Baron. Karsa is just the Beastmaster. If he's in the pit, he is getting that.
Oh, the crash down though, the flash away from Flandre. That's a great little ulti though from Zhuo. They take down the jungle while Scout comes in, and yeah, he's the raid boss as he gets buster shotted away. Zhuo will sacrifice his life to slow down some tempo, but now only 1 Baron remaining for top esports, but EDG have to leave.
It almost looked good for top esports. Maybe they were going to clean up some of the kills on EDG on the backside. More cash in the pocket of that Tristana, who's really going to hit her stride as soon as she gets that Infinity Edge unlocked for her. But like you said, unfortunately, Big Boy Scout, 7-0-5, now has 3 items complete, as well as a double stopwatch. He has the Hourglass as another stopwatch sitting in his inventory. Comes in and just ruins it. Look at Meiko's play on Karsa, and Karsa's like, nah. Ragnarok, perfectly timed into the pit. Just beautiful. If he gets in the pit, Karsa is getting that monster.
That's insane. Game 1 on the Volley Bear against Suning, he did the exact same thing. It's like Karsa's got his smite on, I don't know, a button that is an S, right? It's a better button. It's 369. Fail that one. Maybe 369 fails the flash, but uses it in the end. While on a different angle, Jiejie's there to cave in. Top esports still under a lot of fire from EDG. They're still really fed, even losing to Baron. Remember that they took down so many members and they've got a gold lead in this game, and Scout has 3 items, so top esports paying the respect, and EDG still strong as hell.
And you can see kind of one of the tools that Edward Gaming's composition does have for them that TES's comp doesn't really have, which is the poke potential. When you have the W coming out of Kaisa, as well as obviously having the Jayce, and then I'm not going to call Udyr a poke champion, but kind of his drive-bys, if you will, of like slaps him with the bear, drive-by, smacks Phoenix on them, and then like runs away. That damage can really start to add up, and it's a little bit easier for EDG to play a little bit more at a distance, where obviously TES, again, are more skirmishes, kind of more of the, not necessarily hard engage, but kind of attacking from multiple angles and using a lot of the mobility and movement speed that once a team fight has happened, the circus came to town and TES are the ringleaders.
Apparently, the circus is still going on. It's Jiejie and Karsa battling it out. The rest of EDG come through. That's Destiny used, but it'll go all the way to the front. Mention Knight, he's up above Karsa while he's doing the blue buffs. Caught out is Scout, but now the rest of the team's there. Going golden might be okay, but JackeyLove over the wall is caught out by Meiko. This Alistar on a pile drive mission, as Knight will die too. A double already, a good Vanguard's edge, but I don't know if 369 can clean this one up. Give him the quadra kill with Scout to take the last, and EDG on a mission to go to top esports base.
Oh, TES were simply bowling pins, and Viper was the bowling ball that EDG just perfect strike through them. You called out Meiko, you called out Scout, and Viper in the middle of it, just orchestrating it beautiful. Ult into the backline, picks up the first kill, turns on the second, just expertly played as Edward Gaming will take first game in such a commanding fashion from that mid game.
When this team groups up, they can do anything, and EDG just shows you why they have the highest kill participation in the league. When they're that 5-man squad, they can do anything, and a 1-0 to start off the series against top esports definitely feels like we're going to have a banger of a series ahead with so much blood shed in such a short period of time. Froskurinn, that wasn't even a 30-minute game, and we had like 30-something
They shifted so quickly, you know what I mean? Like, you and I were just talking about, like, oh, you know, EDG are getting a bit hammered into that bot lane. Yeah, they're doing a good job, you know, trading back every single time. It wasn't, you know, expanding in a gold lead as much as it potentially could have, because EDG were doing well at, you know, answering back at least 1-for-1 every time. But top esports, they got the flash off of the Jayce, they went for the dive, and then from there we're just a little bit slow on getting back into the map in a coordinated fashion. And as soon as EDG found a weak point, they just exploited that with the power of their Ryze. And wild. They just, as soon as they had it, they didn't let go, and they showed why they're a commanding veteran team, that they understand the macro, that when we have a lead, this is how we close out a game.
I just love that teleport play comes down. Top esports feel comfortable enough, but that play up towards the top side felt like it defined quite a lot for EDG. Scout's Realm Warp, catching out Knight. Knight again in the follow-up play was caught out. It was a recurring theme where Scout was just the better mid laner in that game, and his Ryze got off to such an early lead. It felt like as soon as he trapped an enemy, they were dead in an instant. And a great start for EDG. And again, a 27-minute game. They're not a fast team, but they found the lead and they closed it out fast enough.
There was a lot of different things that kind of played off of expectations that we had. You know, we talked about how TES are usually an extending lane phase oriented team, but they actually exited lane phase very quickly this time around. It was a very hit and run style of League of Legends. You talked about how EDG are supposedly a slow team, but just really grabbed the bull by the horns and took this one away. And I think the damage to champions actually really tells a good story of this game. You know, 369 didn't get utilized on this Irelia. He didn't really get to 1v1 or fight anyone. He was kind of left alone in PvE world, and then team fights were kind of over before they began. Knight getting picked off a lot. He didn't really get to do a lot with his Twisted Fate, even though you don't expect those damage numbers to be really high. And focusing on this Ryze that was such a pivotal member, I think that Ryze is actually going to be one of the most important picks of this series, because it allows Scout to play that side lane if TES want to give a you know, a good matchup for 369 on something like the Irelias, the Jaxes, the Camille's.
You and I were having a chat about this, right? A champion that can actually hit the side lanes and put pressure under 369 in the early parts of the game. But as we saw there, the catch potential onto top esports is exquisite. But EDG, they're a team that I think when a lot of people saw top esports and EDG and they looked at them stylistically, a lot of people thought top esports would just outlane them, would get the red side counterpick, would pretty much solo lane gap. But this was not the case. EDG were responding so well to the bot plays. They were doing exactly what we stated in our opening segment, where EDG are going to be a team that are going to hit the bottom lane, and they're going to group up with Scout, they're going to clear his wave, and then move down with Force. Feels like that what we saw here in game number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a break. When we return to see if top esports have the firepower to return with might for game number 2.